Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 18 of Behind the Whiskers, the podcast where we mostly just drink and babble on about non-important things about theater and art and circus and sideshows and fluffy little bunny clouds and, I don't know, the idea that we'll all find true love. I don't know. I'm just being dramatic. But thank you for joining us once again. I'm Mitchell Fink. I'm your host with my co-host,
Harley Clinton.
And our special guests, Mr.
Jeffrey Brown.
And
David Atlas.
Thank you, David Atlas, for joining us this evening, and Jeffrey Brown. We've decided to bring you guys a kind of interesting show topic today. And that topic is to branch into
sort of sideshow-esque circus-themed music. It's not always going to be specifically circus or sideshow, but something that gives you inspiration towards the sideshow genre.
Definitely the kind of art, like a lot of music that we listen to and we're going to suggest in this episode for you, our listeners, to engage with, is music that kind of inspires us, not inherently something we'd use during a show, but something that we feel captures the romantic idea behind running away and joining a circus, or some of the emotion in our show, things like that. We would encourage listeners that every time we bring up a show, we are going to, here in the studio, actually pause, listen to the song, and then talk about it. And we're going to try to include clips. We're still kind of ambiguous about the inclusion of clips. I think it's worth noting that Mr. Jeffrey Brown, who's here with us this evening, is a bit of an audiophile. Would you say that you are obsessed with music, Jeffrey?
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, I do landscape work, so I get to listen to music all day, every day, for usually about 6 hours a day, bare minimum. And I'm listening to music through the whole thing. And it ranges from the circus theme music to, rap, classic rock, everything. So it really doesn't matter. I can find circus theming in pretty much any genre.
All right. Well, I'll abruptly start us off with what I consider to be a defining piece of music for the sideshow. And that song is by an NYU educated artist named Mr. Dalton Duchesne, who I've had the pleasure of getting to communicate with briefly via email, and actually allowed us permission to include one of his songs that I'll mention here in our trailer, which should be coming out soon, called Freak Show. It's all right on the nose. It's a really, really great piece of music. Go have a listen, everybody.
Now, I will say, he has damn good stage presence.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, just watching the music video alone, you feel encapsulated in the entire freak show vibe. You want to be one of the freaks in his freak show.
I think the lyric that resonated the most strongly with me in this, I had a good friend that showed me the album that found it, and the whole album, I think it's called Demons and Dogmen, which is a really cool, you see like vintage sideshow adverts that have that like Dogmen, things like that in it. So Artie Eccentric, and emailing back and forth a little bit with him, you kind of get a bit of a vibe. He's very much about the alt culture, things like that, all the edgy stuff that kids are into. And
Yeah, same.
right, exactly. The lyric I like the best from that song that really gets me is the only monsters in the freak show are the ones that paid to get their ass in those chairs. And it's a really broad, like big top level thought. If you go back to the like origins of sideshow and freak show art, you think about the people that were paying to see people that were less fortunate than them. And granted, the people less fortunate than them were putting themselves out there to be seen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think people one-sided tell that story a lot. While there were people getting taken advantage of, there were also people, both the promoters and the actual exhibits themselves in sideshow and freak show art, that were putting themselves in that capacity because they had no other way to work sometimes, but everybody was propagating it. But the real monsters are the people that are laughing. And as an artist that got picked on a lot, as trivial as that sounds compared to having a debilitating condition, I like that idea that like the joke is flipped on you at the end of the day. As the audience member, I get the last laugh because you might be too cool to have thought I was a neat guy before I could eat fire and before I had a sideshow behind me. But now you're the one paying for a ticket. It's your money going in my pocket. Who's the monster now?
I might be messed up, but I get to pay for my dinner with your money.
Because you wanted to gawk at my goofy ass.
Exactly.
Bring it on. Who wins today?
Get gawking. Give me your money, boy.
I think I really like the build towards the end of the song, where you kind of hear more of the traditional circus sound. Um, and I think that that's something that a lot of the songs I picked, especially, they have an aspect of that, and that's because I hear more of the song itself, like the instrumental and stuff. I have to listen to it a few times to really grasp the lyrics of it. And like one thing that always struck me with that song was just the subtle nod to the traditional circus sound that you hear.
His whole album is that way. I believe it also had a book that he published with it. They're worth looking up. From what I understand, talking to him, his band fell apart after COVID, and then he's recently released some music. So that was like recorded early on. He just released it, or he got a band back together. But that was very much his crescendo at the end, though, is like super intense as the opening song too. Or no, sorry, this isn't the opening song by any means. This is the wrong word. It's also the crescendo to the album. It's the climax of the album and its story. So I think that's the crescendo there at the end of the song is really intense, and kind of at that point you're all like jumping and bobbing your head to it. I think that makes it good music inherently, regardless.
There's a lot of energy with it.
It really pulls you in, and has Santa Claus nodded off? No, it really pulls you in and makes you, even just listening to it through your phone, it makes you feel like you're at the concert jumping along with him. It's got great energy to it, and it is so much fun to listen to.
Agreed. So, what's our next song, Harley?
So, at the top of my list, I've gone for a little bit of a different route. I'm a lot more into modern music, a lot more rap and hip hop. So I'm going to kick it off with a new artist who's starting to hit the mainstream now, Ren. He released a song called Children of the Moon.
He's the guy that always plays himself like he's like pure T crazy, right?
Yes.
Like twitchy, very much like Renfield and Dracula is what I always thought of, yeah?
Yes, and that's because he has, what was it, Lyme disease? He has gone through a lot of treatment. He has a lot of mental health issues. He is a really phenomenal artist, and his musicality is off the charts.
Cool. Let's take a listen, folks.
So, it is a rather, like, almost Rocky Horror picture show vibe when you're watching the music video itself. He plays sort of this mime character, but I feel it relates to our particular Sideshow because of that one particular line. We're not quite living, but we're not quite dead. We play these entities of darkness, essentially, that some would consider us, these ghosts, these beings of the past that have come back to show you our dark side, but entertain you along the way.
I agree. I think that the visuals in the music videos, and we do recommend that you watch all these songs with the music videos on. That's what we're doing here. It's another really great way to watch how an artist expresses themselves. That was really cool. I was kind of caught up in the visuals of the music video, but I liked the Children of the Moon thing. I like a lot of magic stuff like that. I feel like, sideshow and circus art is so shrouded in this guise of mystery, and it's also difficult. And as we've come to discover recently, as we've dived a little bit harder into some of the actual arts behind that, most of it is only as hard as you make it. But there's this really big line that separates the men from the boys, as it were, when it comes to performing some of this stuff, because it is scary looking and it is frightening and not inherently in a grotesque way.
Yeah.
But I think the song captures some of that for me. I like that. I like the characters he chose in the music video.
I feel like the mime just plays into it a lot because mimes are classically related to freak shows.
Well, it's I can't remember the name of it. Dave, maybe you can help us out here. It's a kind of Italian comedy. It's like a Venetian circus thing. I can't remember. It's like comedy della ta or some stuff.
Italian's not my thing.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to reach out for some internet help here.
Gonna have to phone a friend.
Jeffrey David, what were your thoughts?
Dave, I'll let you go ahead.
I wish you wouldn't.
Well, you've spoken so much this podcast. I thought you'd be ready.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Well, I think I'll constantly take the instrumental side of things for this. It's a little bit easier for me. I had actually not heard that song before, and there was a lot going on instrumentally for me, and I really liked. And this is probably a point I'll repeat for most songs. I really like the subtle nods of the brass and stuff that you hear. It kind of has that circusy sound to it, but it's also the drum cadence would be the word.
Yeah.
I believe.
It's not purely Sideshow, but it gives that nod towards that classical brass and piano that you would hear in the classic Sideshow bits.
And I will agree with Mitch. I was really caught up in the visuals of it as well. That song in particular, really, especially for not hearing it before and seeing it before, it really did a lot, seeing the visuals for it.
So the phrase I was reaching for earlier is commedia dell'arte, which is in the 17th and 18th century form of art. It is an Italian thing, and very associated with Venice, Venetian masks. These are the kind of modern pop culture things, but also mimes come broadly from that. Juggling, artful comedy, essentially, or art of comedy. And I think that's a common thing that's expressed in association with mental illness also, because they're easy things to gravitate towards. The things we're told that are typically happy that aren't always.
It's easy to throw a mask on to hide the mental issues that you're suffering and play a character. But sometimes these masks highlight the issues that you're facing and bring awareness to stuff that you may find it hard to talk about.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's a lot of that behind the Sideshow's characters and their depth. I agree. Jeffrey, you're up.
What do you mean I'm up? I spoke.
Your song.
Oh, the song. I was about to say, I gave my input.
I'm sorry,
I was
folks.
waiting on Santa Claus.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Did you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, good talker. He's a big talker here, folks.
So my first song is going to be "Come to the Circus" by Circus Contraption. It's a song I found a while back when I was first kind of diving into the genre, and it's just full circus. So go ahead and take a listen.
So I'll run right off the bat from that. I think that was a really, really crazy, kind of shocking at the hour we're recording this after this many drinks. I wasn't prepared. There are other bands I've encountered with that, and I think a couple of you guys have picked probably songs from Firewater, which is another band that has kind of a similar sound, but not quite as manic. Extraordinarily manic. I particularly loved the surprise lyric of "Pop your pooper in the stands." Step right up, ladies and gentlemen.
We exchanged a whole ass glance at that
lyric. We did. Harley and I were
don't forget the lyric right before. It's sure to stimulate your glands, so pop your pooper in the stands.
I completely missed that lyric.
I don't know that I consent to that. I haven't decided.
And it's their grand disaster plan.
For me, it really gave this Tom and Jerry-esque.
It did. It probably brought a
chasing
cartoon.
them around the
cartoon
house vibe.
I mean, there's the really fun slide whistle, animal noises in the middle of the song. It's just pure chaos.
To describe
it reminds me of a song that a friend of mine, Teague Christie, wrote a bunch of years back. The Insidious Communist Propaganda of Steve, which is the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of beat and cadence and crazy animals and crazy grunty animal noises. And he's just swinging Maker's Mark in the booth, recording the thing as the night goes on.
To describe it simply,
and I love
really is a cacophony of sounds.
I agree.
Just
Mr.
artfully
Atlas?
arranged noise.
Mr. Atlas, you're on the spot, sir. What song would you like to throw down?
Wait. I have one more lyric that I wanted to point out that I really liked. This is the lyric that actually made me really want to choose the song. The lyric is, "Well, step inside our circus tent. You'll wonder where your money went."
I like that immensely because I, for myself personally, greatly appreciate making their money disappear. That's really fun.
And that is
I thought you were going to say
precisely-
making your own money disappear at the circus tent.
wop wop.
that is precisely why I chose this song, is because Morpheus is notorious for trying to scrounge up as much money as possible.
Oh
And
yes.
blowing his wad.
Moving on from that happy statement, Mr. Hatless, you are on stage, sir.
So now I feel like I have to do something equally crazy, but maybe we'll save that for the end after we're not recording anymore. I think I'm going to go with The Night the Carousel Burned Down by Tom Rundgren. So it's the 70s, so it's like the worst acid trip of carnival music you could possibly go on. But so I really like stuff that's super, super story driven. That's kind of everything I do. Even with this kind of stuff, I really like doing bizarrest magic and just things that are really about the story and the objects and paint a picture and put you in a place. And I feel like the use of classic circus instruments in weird, trippy, psychedelic 1971 music is just something that's really interesting that I haven't seen a lot of other people do, and just takes you instantly to a place and time in a way a lot of other things don't.
I feel like that song really just fits the vibe of everything happening here tonight. A bunch of clowns sitting around drinking moonshine whilst the world burns down around them.
Whilst the Calliope plays on.
Exactly.
I wholeheartely agree. I think, obviously, absolutely on the nose for the story of our particular sideshow, and many other circuses that did burn to the ground. But I was picturing like the Woodstock moment at 3 a.m. where a couple of hippies in a corner like struck this banger out. I thought that was cool. Like, I really enjoyed the story, the simplicity of it, but also the beat of the music was repetitious in the same way that the mechanism that drives something like a carousel is. And I thought that really fit the spirit of the piece.
I also noticed something, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong. It sounded like towards the end, before it did kind of the fade out, it seemed like there was a bit of almost railway sound. Did anyone
Yeah,
else?
there was railway, you're like failing machinery, something mechanical going on in there.
So the way I heard that, it sounded like train tracks, which I thought like perfectly represented the circus.
Yeah.
Well,
very
they do
much.
use in the lyrics the bit like, and then we'll all leave town. So maybe that was indicative of that, perhaps?
It's very reminiscent of the traveling sideshow, constantly having their train cars that they unload in a field, set up shop, perform for a week, and then reload and move on to the next venue.
It also really reminded me, and of course it did, it's 70s psychedelic. It reminded me of Pink Floyd, which is one of my favorite bands of all time. I grew up on it. And like, especially some of the early Pink Floyd stuff, it has that same sound, and it's so cool to hear something in that style with a circus tonality to it.
When did this song come out?
I believe it was 71.
Was it 71? When was Pink Floyd popular?
I think first album.
Has
give
Pink
me one
Floyd
second.
lost popularity?
Yeah, they're still.
Accusing it of that.
I know they started. I think they started in the 70s. Let me double check. 67.
Yeah, they were very popular around that era and onto this day.
1965.
Yeah, so same ballpark.
Same vibe, same like style of playing, that very mellowed out, hippy dippy sort of mood.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just drug induced stupor music.
I really feel like that. Like that's a lost thing in modern
Drug
music.
induced stupors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you don't, not in the same like 70s sound. You don't hear that anymore, and it's really a shame because I think it's such a good genre of music.
As I snort my Vicks Vapor Rub.
Perfectly fitting.
Oh yeah.
But I think that 70s psychedelic sound is really, really cool. And I think it fits really well with the circus sound. And especially in that kind of slowed down, almost not quite demented, but like distraught
Twisted.
twist that they put on
Yep.
it.
Well, I what I really appreciated about it is like, if you listen to 70s Pink Floyd-esque music, it's all guitars and synths and things like that. Where if you really break down what they're doing in this, in that kind of long instrumental section, it's calliope and monkey cymbals and all of these weird circus instruments that are kind of morphed into that, 70s
Very flower child feel.
music. But it's all like, if you break down each individual sound, it's a very circus authentic sound.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that as well. Like, because you're just so used to hearing guitars, and the closest thing to that you would hear is like an acoustic guitar,
Yep.
or maybe a 12-string guitar, and occasionally you'd have some weird instrument that they throw in there, and that'd be the whole highlight of the song. But this song is just filled with the weird instruments.
Yeah, it's all weird instruments.
Which I think that's the best part of it.
I'm glad you decided to pop your pooper in that stand because it was kind of making me anxious with you standing over top of me. Mitch was standing, just swaying over the top of me in this awkward hunchback position.
It was entertaining from my angle.
I'm sure it was, but...
And moving on. The next song that I have to offer to everyone is The Wondrous Boat Ride, attributed specifically to Mr. Gene Wilder, God rest his soul, who has unfortunately passed, but is one of my favorite actors.
a phenomenal actor.
A phenomenal actor. And also is most famous, I would say, but for American audiences at least, by playing Willy Wonka in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I think even for Australian audiences, that'd be his stand-up role.
Oh, he was a great actor. And in this, there's a song called The Wondrous Boat Ride. Go take a listen.
Speaking of drug-induced hellscapes.
You said what, Dave?
I said, speaking of drug-induced hellscapes.
Yeah, really.
For real.
I mean, that would have been a great one to back circus contraption. The manic energy is completely there.
I think for me, it's definitely the manic energy. The entirety of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and then we're going to skip over that god-awful Johnny Depp film. I love Johnny Depp as an actor, but that was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was an artistic abortion.
It wasn't. It didn't match up to the original.
It didn't.
By any means.
But then the latest film that
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, did. While not a great movie, really fit that same energy. He worked really, really hard to try to capture that same feeling of imagination and anything is possible. And one of the things I love about Gene Wilder in this, and I know we're talking about music, but the film part is relevant, is that if you read Ronald Dahl, who is the original writer of, I believe the book was called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he writes Willy Wonka to be this very magical character that's capable of conjuring all this brilliant stuff. But also, he's not inherently a good guy. The character is written to be very real and very human in the sense that he's kind of got a little bit of darkness in him. And Gene Wilder, Johnny Depp didn't play him this way. Gene Wilder did. Like, he was nice, but at the very beginning of the film, he insisted, like, you'll see there's this really cool, like, cane roll flip trick he does.
Yeah.
And he insisted, in order to take the contract, Gene Wilder said, you will let me do this, where I come out with a limp and pretend I have a limp, and then I suddenly will do a backflip. And then people will be like, whoa, he lied to us about having a limp. And he did that intentionally to make the character unpredictable, which I think this song summons really well. Even though the song Pure Imagination for me is hand over foot, one of the best pieces of music that's ever been written, and summons the way that I've tried to write our sideshow and kind of the feelings I have behind it. But The Wondrous Boat Ride is absolutely what I want to take an audience on in their journey through our show, where it's like, this is fun. Oh, wait, this is kind of scary. Oh, wait, we might all die. And
it's very befitting to that point. Like, it starts off very mystical, magical, and we draw you in. And then you're like, oh, wait, these characters may not actually be alive. Am I actually communing with the dead right now? Oh, no, I am terrified.
Well, and more so less than like the story, which most audiences would know would be bunk and bullshit, but like the death-defying acts that are included in it, the things that are scarier than what normal people are willing to do. And I think that is the summation of all circus art, right? Is that we're going to present you some things that are really provocative and beautiful. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, those dudes with bikes are about to ride into like giant pillars of fire. They're going to die. And that's why I like that song. I think that conjures that kind of emotion from it.
Jeffrey?
I would happen to agree. I really just like the slow, but then also very steep change into the just manic energy.
The bass drop, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's just so calm and whimsical, and then like you're feeling great, and then all of a sudden you're just wondering what the hell is happening.
When did I plunge into the 7th layer of hell on this wondrous boat ride?
And it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but I remember watching the movie and just like you're so confused as to how you got there.
Yeah.
One minute it's like, oh yeah, Willy Wonka. Next minute you're like, oh my god, Willy Wonka.
I may have to refresh my memory on this movie. That's just sparked a whole lot of nostalgia for me.
Yeah, I think I will also be taking part in that.
We might have to have a Willy Wonka movie night.
Directly after the filming of this podcast. Much to Mitch's demise.
Harley, what you got for us?
So, next, I really stayed on the sort of darker Freak Show vibe here. I went with Freak Show by Pierce and Talia Stewart. And for me, it holds a lot of reference towards the typical ringmaster in the start of it, but it takes a little bit of a turn to looking inside the hubris of the ringmaster and the Freak Show in general. Take a listen, folks. So that song, it's a lot poppier in sort of the musicality, but it's still very dark and highlighting the darker intricacies of the Freak Show itself.
If you can't tell, the cat agrees.
The cat very much agrees.
It definitely takes a really dark turn. So I was just looking up the lyrics.
Yeah, you're good.
And it takes a super dark turn from the beginning, which is very whimsical and fun, very much in the same vein as the Wondrous Boat Ride. And then suddenly snaps itself over to, like, don't you leave me bleeding, wah, emo, wah, you know? It very, very quickly turns itself around. And I think it captures that dichotomy really, really well. I wonder how much our modern audience. So I don't know what. Aside from strange Australian gamers, I'm not sure who listens to Pierce and Talia. How popular are they on the grand scheme of popularity?
They're a lot more popular in sort of the smutcore realm, which is starting to grow as TikTok continues to grow. It's very popular in like skits and little videos on social platforms, but other than that, it's a little more niche than some stuff.
I wonder about modern audiences that listen to this kind of stuff non-ironically. I mean, I guess we're listening to it unironically, but like they genuinely enjoy the music and don't think about the grander context.
I mean, I think about the grander context of it, but I find some enjoyment in it. It's the two strings of the Sideshow. Again, it's the happy, wondrous, mystical, playful side of things in the instrumental with the really dark, punchy lyrics that make you go, oh shit, is that really what's happening right now? Makes you question your sanity a little bit.
A little sinister situation going on there.
Yeah.
I also really liked in the music video the portrayal of the clown character she had. The makeup and everything was rather similar to some of the makeup we do. Just
Yeah.
Not to hate on it, but ours is a little bit better.
Well, it is
A
pop
music
culture
video. It is a
video.
pop music video.
versus dark circus theme.
Well, on the realm of dark circus theme, The Man on the Burning Tightrope by Firewater actually is the song that kind of led me into this genre. I heard it playing at my place of previous employment.
God rest its soul in hell.
And it kind of stuck with me, along with its AI. And So I heard that song playing quite frequently, and it piqued my interest. And eventually, I started to explore the genre, but this song always remained as probably my favorite of the genre, other than the last remaining song I have. So, with that being said, everyone go take a listen. So, what were your thoughts, Harvey?
I really like how the lyrics, again, fall into this almost ringmaster, I'm explaining what's happening vibe. I'm producing the show. Look at this in amazement, this man on the burning tightrope.
Mm-hmm.
It really elevates it for me. Like, I mean, as the ringmaster is supposed to.
I think it's also the tonality that he's speaking and singing in, the kind of grittiness of his voice. It kind of gives that showman, but also circusy sideshow sound to it. Like the fact that he sounds the way he does makes it seem like he's this almost dirty circus ringmaster, and also there's the aspect of that it is kind of a play on the fact that like the man on the burning tightrope has got like all this crap going on, and so his kind of negative sounding voice or aggressive sounding voice kind of plays into the dark theming of the song.
Really plays back to the mental hubris of a ringmaster in general. The drive for drawing people into the seats to produce a show at whatever cost.
Thank you for buttoning up my dumpster fire.
I would argue that in this case, it doesn't have anything to do with anybody leading the show. I think the announcer is simply a narrator. But I do like the use of a couple of common phrases. The stanza where he says, he's always walked this tightrope between the devil and the deep blue sea, a monkey on the wire, but he's drunk his cup of sorrow. He's thrown his curses at the moon, and it festers on the fire. And so the Firewater is a band that, in my experience with them, is really good at calling like attention to some really stupidly eccentric, like mental conundrums. And if you look through a bunch of their lyrics in their whole discography, it's a lot of stuff like that, where they have a distinctly circus sound, and the setting of their stories very rarely has to do so much with like this. Like in this case, they're talking about a man on a tightrope, and I don't know that it's as literal as we enjoy it as, because I like that picture, that imagery, very literally. But I think that in this case, a lot of it's very figurative. And so they're talking about somebody that's balancing on the precipice of a choice. What I really enjoy is that it calls to attention that circus is so damn prevalent and such a thing in the American imagination that it allows for it to be used as commonplace metaphor for really, really simple stuff. Like a dude making a big decision or a big change or being torn between two things. That's a man balancing on a tightrope. And so it tells you something about how much that's captured the American imagination.
It calls back to a previous episode we did where we talked about the fact that not all children have seen a circus sideshow. But if you asked a child to draw a ringmaster, they'd still capture the cape and the top hat and the imagination of a circus ringmaster. It's that prevalent in just society in general that you don't have to have seen a sideshow to know what a sideshow is about.
On that note,
slightly off topic, I'd like to circle back to what Mitch was saying about the teetering on the edge of a decision. It kind of plays into a later verse where it says he could have been somebody else. It could have been much worse. I think that kind of like
he could have been a hooker.
Could have been, I mean, there's no telling. It could have been worse.
Stop projecting your creative choice on other people.
Shit, my bad.
But and also I think one thing I noticed with Firewater is they have a lot of political undertones to their music. And one song, I'll just briefly mention it, Hey Clown by Firewater. I was going to actually do that one, but I figured, Man on the Burning Tightrope is the song that kind of got me off the deep end for this circus genre. And it's a holds a lot of memories for it. But Hey Clown also has a kind of same like not. It has a very strong undertone to it. I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Buddy.
I have no thoughts. I'm tired. The alcohol's working.
All right, so I will speak for Dave. So one other thing that I really liked about the song was just the kind of the drum beat to it. I feel like it had a very nice circusy sound to it. And Dave, do you have a song for chance?
I do have a song per chance. It is The Carney by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Did you fade that out early, Dave? I can't hear you, Dave.
Yes, because it's 8 minutes long. And we're going to be here all night.
We're already here all night.
Dave,
Yes,
Dave, since when did you develop a 12 a.m. bedtime?
When we're having to think about music, which is not something that I particularly do often.
Oh, well, shit, you could have opted out.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, very well.
I just don't have that much to say about all of it. Like, I don't listen to much music, like, at all.
I guess that's true. We don't really talk about it outside of Broadway.
No, occasionally, like, Broadway stuff, but that's story driven. Like, that's kind of my thing, is very story driven music, where the music itself is almost secondary to the story.
I do kind of think in the same way. A lot of mine is less about a vibe or a feeling and more about what the music is saying.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you there. In this case, I think that The Carney is a great example of this. Nick Cave is actually really, really good at this as a musician, I find. Popular examples, like where most of our audience would know him from, is if any of you have seen this TV show, Peaky Blinders. One of his classics called Red Right Hand is the intro to that TV show. And it very vividly describes kind of a gangster gunman, which is what the show's about. In this case, The Carney paints a really interesting picture. Dave, tell us a little bit about it. Okay.
My brain just broke.
I'll tell you all about it.
Yes, Mitchell, why don't you educate us on the song that I totally stole from you because I only had two?
Damn it. Okay, I was going to put this on my list originally, but I like it because, again, a dear friend of mine showed it to me, and it took me a little bit to cozy up to it because the first pass was like, it's nonsense, hard to understand. Then I read the lyrics, and it tells such a vivid story about this sad horse that was supposed to be pulling a carny wagon somewhere, and then burying it, and then suddenly the rain comes down, and the canvas is all wet, and then the horse's body is floating up to the surface, and the smells of putrefaction and decay are happening. And is the carny going to come back to see his dead horse? It's so weird, but it projects this kind of mystery about the music that people see a carnival or a circus, and what they identify with, I think, is the performance. Very few people give a lot of thought to the background information of the carnival and what it takes to move it. Very few people think about the performers, and this is true in all kinds of performance, as real people with real lives and real feelings, hopes, thoughts, and dreams, let alone the pressures of show business upon those people. That's what I think this song sums up.
It's like the behind the scenes in general. Like, people see the show, they come for the show, but once they've seen the show, they stop thinking about it. They don't tend to ponder the life of the performer or, as you said, the horse that draws the carriage. They just see the sideshow at surface level, at performance level, and nothing else.
Yeah, I really liked just kind of like Mitch was saying, it vividly describes the story to you. And for someone like me personally, I don't usually hear the lyrics first time around. It usually takes a few goes for me to really like comprehend the story. And for this song in particular, I see it. I see it happening off of the first listen, and that doesn't really happen frequently for me.
Yeah.
All right, Harley, next up, we've got...
I went for another pop song. It's by an artist called Suburban, and it's called Freak.
Really keeping them on the nose here.
Yeah, no, it's very straightforward. No, again, it follows this sort of draw in vibe. Come see the freaks that we have in store for you. But it kind of highlights that whilst these people may be freaks, they in and of themselves have their own like talents and personality. They have this sort of intricacy about them. They are, as one of the lyrics states, a fine collection of stranger things. Take a listen, guys. So I find that song very subtly unsubtle. The backing track is very mellow and calm, but when you go ahead and watch the music video itself, it shows how all of these quote unquote freaks are essentially stacked on top of each other inside of these, was it dirt and straw tents? They're all caged together, performing within each other's space, and almost like a collection of oddities for people to gawk at.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I really did like the art direction. So I had actually heard that song before, but I really like the art direction in the music video. I wasn't expecting that much from it.
Yeah, Suburban really goes over the top with his music videos and the characters he performs. A couple of his other music videos are really insane as well, like really on the nose, sort of almost horrifying things. But that one shows a lot of different circus characters and freak show characters that you would have witnessed in the old 10-in-1 sideshow, freak show thematic.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely captures a lot of the classic stuff, very on the nose. I think that keeping that kind of culture relevant for a modern pop audience is really, really healthy, regardless of what way they're reaching for it.
Exactly. It's good to keep a lot of this stuff in the limelight, because if we stop reaching for that old stuff, we're going to lose it to time. And some of these things just help to keep the sideshow in the spotlight a little more.
Mitch, do you have another song for us?
I believe it's your turn, Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah, it is my turn, actually. You're right. So my next song is going to be Human Cannonball by Dio Casino. I actually found this song because it is the band of one of my favorite artists, Joe P. It's his band that he used to be a part of. And it's kind of one of those songs that when I listen to it, I can picture, our sideshow and us performing. And it's a very inspirational song for me. And I feel that it's that way for a lot of people in Twisted Whisker. So go ahead and take a listen. So, I know I've heard that song quite a few many times. Harley, have you heard that song before?
You have played it for me a couple of times. I really like it. It really falls back to that sort of classical rock feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's that mellow, but still driving a story home.
Yeah, I definitely, I really, really, really like the, just, you feel like you are performing, and especially as performers ourselves, when listening to that song, you're picturing yourself performing.
But also, you can sort of picture it from a position in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you feel yourself in those seats, seeing the human cannonball going, like, okay, that's, like, you don't have a net. that is crazy. But then the ones that haven't, you're like, okay, where's the danger?
I think the song kind of brings itself for me as a producer that produces shows. The lyric, it's something like, the crowd won't roar until it's life or death.
Yeah.
And there's no applause for a safety net. There's a lot of really cool art that I've produced that has been really remarkable, but because it appears to be simple or it appears to be easy or safe to do, people have a tendency to write it off. And that's always what's spoken to me about that song.
So picking back up on kind of the crowd won't roar until it's life or death. I really like the lyric not too long after that, where it's talking about how the audience wants to see you fall. They want to see you fail. And I think that is true in all performance. To some extent, they want to see you fail, especially in circus sideshow stuff.
Well, not even especially. I think that's self-aggrandizing what it is that we do. I think that's putting on airs that we can't actually support. All theatrical performance, people are driven by Schadenfreude for a lot of their own self-esteem. And most people that feel very poorly about themselves, which can come from one of two angles. It can come from just feeling poorly about yourself in secret, but it can also come from feeling poorly about yourself because you're not brave enough to get up on a stage. And that can be something as humble as getting up and playing a guitar, even if you're good at guitar, but maybe you don't have the cojones to get up on the stage and play the guitar. You're going to want to see the person on the stage fail because if you're not a successful performer, because it makes you feel better about, well, they weren't just simply too brave. They were too stupid to get on that stage. And I see that reflected in many people. And in particular, I see that reflected in a lot of show producers that don't have the balls to get up and put on a costume and makeup and go make a fool of themselves in front of other people. And so they'll belittle those that can or do. And so, yeah, that lyric resonates the hell out of me because you can criticize my work or my art. If you feel like you're willing to do it, then I'm willing to have a conversation with you. But if not, your wanting to see me fail is simply probably a symptom of your inability to do what I do, which isn't that fantastic. I do think we shouldn't, like I said, self-aggrandizing about, we're badass because we do circus stuff. Like, yeah, we're cool, but like no more cool than anybody else who does it. There's simply a choice that was made. The difference in someone who is an excellent plumber or an excellent salesman. Like there are all sorts of things you can be excellent at. And I think this one is one that the public thinks is really neat, but that doesn't make us braver or better than an actor in film or television, or on the radio.
I think to a different extent also, it adds an air of relatability. Like, yes, you see these people in their perfection. They perfected their art. They're amazing at what they do. But they are still able to make a mistake in what they have performed. And to some extent, it makes them feel better about themselves on the same wavelength. Like, oh, they can make a mistake. I can also make a mistake, and it's okay.
I've certainly seen that in some juggling acts. If you're a fellow performer, there's something humbling about watching somebody make a mistake on stage. Not in a gratifying way where you're like, haha, they screwed up. But instead, you're like, damn, they recovered from that really smoothly. They didn't hide it. They just embraced it and kept walking through it. And I'm impressed by the way that you carried that off and carried yourself.
It's almost comforting.
It is.
It's comforting to know that you can mess up, but still recover the performance and continue to progress and put on a phenomenal show.
I mean, that's something that you see wholeheartedly with the knife throwing and axe throwing.
Oh, yeah.
There is not a written way it's supposed to go. There's suggestions, but it's really just, it comes down to who is actually going to do the best.
Who hits the target, and then the dialogue spills out from there.
If, for example, I miss one, I have to figure out a way to play it off on the spot after I miss it.
Yeah. It's just a little humbling to know that not everybody is perfect, and so you don't have to fit into that perfection and perform at 100% all the time.
I agree.
Even if you're a prideful knife thrower.
All right, David. Send it home. Well, almost home, and I got one more to put your audience with.
Almost home. I'll load it on the train, and you can stoke the fire. We've got the Watchmaker's Apprentice from the Clockwork Quartet. So this again fits with my very like super story driven. I don't know if this is necessarily exactly circusy, but definitely like Victoriana in the realm of, and I think it passes the vibe check.
So like Timothy Chalamet in his everyday business. He looks like
Yeah, so this is one that I had come to a couple of times while I was putting together a character for like a bizarrist magic act that's very like based around like automaton, things like that. And this was my like, I need to get in the mood that way I can build stuff for this thing.
So that particular song, I think you were the one that showed it to me, Dave, and I've always had my
I'm pretty
imagination
sure, yeah.
captured by it because the same like circus happy part of my brain, especially with the ba 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 ba, is really 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 common when it comes to the circus beats that you hear in a lot of calliopes or other player organs. A really common, I don't call it like a bass track, but background track.
Cadence.
Yes, the effective. What do they call those damn clocks they use? Orchestra players use to torture themselves. A metronome of the circuits is right. Ba 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 ba. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Waltz music. And I mean I like the song because it's about murder and it's like really like classied up. You know, I think that's
Murder most foul even.
That's right. 100%. So I think it definitely passes the vibe check and exposes the depth of the characters that we want to see in the sideshow environment. And yes,
I was just gonna say, for me, it definitely gives a circus vibe, but all I could think about is something that seems to be lost in terms of style, and that is the traditional stopwatch. The whole time, all I could think about was my grandmother's antique stopwatch collection. She's got like 72 of these beautiful timepieces locked away in this glass cabinet. And I feel like the sideshow kind of rocks on this sort of timeless timepiece. We sort of move to our own rhythm, but again, it is an art form that just transcends time. Whilst it may have moved out of the popular culture to some degree, it's starting to ramp up yet again and will continue to ramp up and then maybe fall off again and then ramp up again and just continue from there.
Well, I mean, its height was the Great Depression, so.
Don't say that, Dave, please.
well, here we go again on the road again.
On the road to
and on that note, because we are all three basically falling asleep on our end, Dave is barely clinging to life on his end. Our studio audience is also kind of sort of clinging to life barely.
The cat has decided he's going to adventure in new areas.
I mean, we have been recording this episode for like 2 hours at this point.
Yeah, we got 2 hours of footage. Being that we are pushing so close into the realm of the dead here, with us being beyond exhausted and maybe slightly or highly intoxicated, depending on each level of beverage consumption. Mitch, you have one more song to run us out here with. Yeah?
Yeah. Just kidding. I don't actually get drunk hiccups, and I'm not actually that drunk, which is really disappointing. But I do. I think I have a great song to bring us out of this. I would propose that you, our fine audience, take a listen to We Won't Go by a band called The Way to the Egress. That song for me just painted a picture of a bunch of drunk carnies having a massive party after a successful show day. Having been featured to many of those parties, I can say from personal experience that that's how that works.
For me, it really almost gave this pirate vibe.
Mm-hmm. So?
Yeah, like they've just like docked up at the port, they've got off the ship, they've hit the local tavern, and they're all blind drunk and just having a grand old time partying together. Which I feel like pirates aren't completely dissimilar to carnies. They're all drunks. They all love to have a good time. They all love a good song as well.
Yeah, I really think they're like. I think you could hear both. I think there's a lot of aspects of the pirate, and I think there's a lot of aspects of carnies. But I also think, like, kind of what Harley was saying, they are kind of the same thing. You know, they have a lot of the same wants and needs, and being on the road and being so tied up in that, and then finally getting a break from it and just getting to relax and drink and party. It really is a testament to both.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of a couple of band of people that just really don't take themselves too seriously and are just living for the hell of it. In spite of what anybody might say or anybody may criticize, we're having fun doing the stuff we enjoy. Pirate or carny alike.
I agree with that. I think that's a great way to. That's a great way to sum it up. And on that note, I assume everyone's exhausted.
As are we.
I hope that you guys have a plethora of great music to listen to this evening, and would love to chime in with your own favorite circus carnival vibe music.
Yes, please hit us up at all our social medias, Twisted Whisker Sideshow on Instagram and Facebook. Let us know what you think of our favorite picks, our inspirations, and let us know your favorite picks. Also, if you are in the greater Raleigh area of North Carolina, we have some upcoming shows. If you would like to drop into the Viking experience, we will be there. We have our own encampment. We will be performing as well. Or if you would like to tag along to Fear Fest Carolina Fear Fest this year. Sorry, I may be a little tipsy. We will be taking the main stage this year, performing all 3 days. So come and check us out. It'll be a grand old time.
And on that note, folks, this has been episode 18. Two heads are better than one on that. This has been episode 18 of the Behind the Whiskers podcast, the podcast where we babble on incessantly and absolutely make your ears bleed about all sorts of art and circus and things and stuff. Thank you once again for joining us, to our special guests, David Atlas and Mr. Jeffrey Brown. I have been your host, Mitchell Fink.
And I'm Harley Clinton.
Ciao.